And just when I say the chapters are getting shorter, I read ahead and the next chapter's pretty long. Hi guys, this is Connie. I'm going to keep turning you this way because it is early in the morning and we don't want to disturb the mustachio as he wakes up. So, here we are for another session of Connie Reads, 8 Keys. This is chapter 21 and the end of part 2. This one's called A Lifetime Supply of Questions. We'll turn that off. When Mrs. Wakefield said it was time to have someone share her poem, I expected her to call on Caroline. She called on her almost every week. "Elise, come up and share with us." I was so surprised I stayed in my seat staring at her until Caroline poked me in the back. I wasn't sure if I wanted to read my poem in front of everyone, but I stood up and took my paper from Miss Wakefield. It shook a little in my hands. I cleared my throat. Hiding. The real me is hiding. I thought that you were my disguise. I thought that you blocked people's eyes. Now you are gone, but I'm the same, on my own, trapped in a game. I do not like the me I see. I wish that you were still with me. Why did the real me go to hide? Can I find her still inside? The real me is hiding. "Great job, Elise," said Mrs. Wakefield. "I don't get it," said a boy named Greg. "Elise, why don't you tell us a little bit about your poem?" I thought, I guess it's about things being different than they seem, and about losing track. "I think this poem is very interesting because it includes so many elements," Mrs. Wakefield says. "There's loss, self-reflection. Those are just a couple of them. Great work, Elise." I sat down and glanced at Franklin. He didn't look up from the rocket ship he was designing on his gridded notebook page. I wonder if he'd even listened. I read Mrs. Wakefield's comment on the paper. "I hope you share more of your great thoughts with me." Caroline beamed at me. Then she flicked a small piece of paper from the top of her desk to mine. I opened it. It said, "See?" I smiled back. Uncle Hugh and Aunt Bessie were happy when I showed them that what Mrs. Wakefield had written. And that night it was easier to sit down and do my homework. I kept my math paper smooth and nice and did all of my graphing in sharp colored pencil. When I got it back 2 days later, there was a big check plus on it. And when we had to recite a poem for Miss Wakefield, I practiced and remembered every single word. Then a really good thing happened, and that was that I studied enough for the next science test to get a 95. After that, my work didn't scare me anymore. I just did it, and things started to go well more often. And then one day, I came home to the library, and on my desk was the last key. This room was probably the strangest of all, besides the room that had nothing in it, of course. There were no books or pictures, no journals or scrapbooks. There was a message. It said, "Question." A million pieces of paper with what looked like single sentences written on them were taped all over the walls. I looked closer. They were all questions. Some questions had quotations and a name underneath, and some were on their own, as if anyone could have asked them. "Where did I leave my keys?" John. "Where are Elise's shoes?" Hugh. "How are you feeling today?" Bessie. "Please ice cream for dinner?" Elise. "Did anyone see where I put my book?" Hugh. "Did you eat your vegetables?" Bessie. "What is the point of this life? Why do we have to grow up? Does it matter that cheese is actually just really old milk?" "Why don't we ever have any beans when I need them?" Hugh. "What is Hugh talking about?" John. "Do elephants think really big thoughts?" Alec. "Well, do giraffes think really tall thoughts?" Jake. Why is the right thing to do so often the hardest thing to do? Can I color now? Elise. There were too many to read all at once, and they made me a little sad, thinking of all those family moments I had forgotten. But I mostly felt confused. I had opened every locked room. I thought all my questions would be answered, but instead, I found a million more. Elise, come to my desk, please. Oh, super great. I hadn't been in trouble at school in a long time. But when I got to Miss Wakefield's desk, she handed me a note and said, Caroline is absent today. Her mom called and asked that you bring her homework if you can. Here's her address. I can, I said. Phew. That was not scary after all. When I sat down, nosy Amanda peered at the note. I'll bring Caroline her homework, she said. She's my friend. Mrs. Wakefield overheard and said, Caroline's mother wants Elise to do it. Please don't worry, Amanda. It doesn't concern you. See, Amanda, I thought, Caroline is done with you. I paid attention to all the assignments that day so I could be a good homework bringer. I didn't know who Caroline's locker partner was, so I couldn't get her books, but maybe she had some of the right ones at home already anyway, or I could lend her mine. After I called Aunt Bessie to ask for a ride home later, I walked to the address on the paper. It was on Main Street, the same as Leonard's store. I remember Caroline saying it was over the deli. I let myself in the lower door, which was open, walked up the stairs, and knocked. Caroline's mom answered. Her soft-looking clothes made me think of Aunt Bessie. Oh, hello, you must be Elise. She gave me a big smile. Yep, I have Caroline's stuff. That's right, she said specifically to ask for you. I don't know why she couldn't just call someone, but here you are. She didn't come out all day except to make a tuna fish sandwich at lunch. Why you'd eat a stinky tuna in your bedroom, I don't know, but it's her room. Caroline's mom seemed like the opposite of Franklin's mom. If Franklin's mom didn't understand having a friend stop by when you were sick or eating a tuna fish in your room, then it wouldn't happen. She let me into the apartment. The living room, dining room, and kitchen were all open to each other. Caroline's sisters played on the living room floor. They were maybe 2 and 4, wearing pajamas in the late afternoon. They looked like mini Carolines. Her room's the last one down the hall. She's still resting. I went to the end of the hall and knocked on Caroline's door. It's Elise. Oh, come in. I opened the door. Caroline was dancing around in a white sweatshirt and pajama pants. She hopped over and shut the door behind me. Here's your homework list. I felt confused. This Caroline didn't look sick or resting. Thank you. She set the list on her desk. Then she looked at me with an expectant face. Okay. Well, feel better. Elise, Caroline whispered. I have a secret. What is it? It's asleep on my pillow. I looked over at her bed. There was a tiny gray-striped kitten curled up. Oh, cute. Shh, Caroline hissed. Secret. Oh, right, I whispered, then suddenly understanding the mystery of tuna in bed. Can I hold him? Sure. Caroline scooped up the kitten and handed him to me. We both sat on the bed. He's sweet and sleepy, I said. Where did he come from? I rescued him. Found him outside, just dumped by the road. There were other kittens with him, but I guessed they didn't make it. The look on Caroline's face. Where does he go to the bathroom? I have a little box for him in the closet. I let the kitten go, and he stumbled over to Caroline's lap. I wasn't really sick today. I just wanted to stay with him. How long can you keep him secret? That's the thing. Probably no time at all. I've got to get him out of here. No room for extras at our house. Says Dad, anyway. She looked at me. You guys have space. You could have a kitten. Can't. Uncle Hugh's allergic. Oh. Her face fell. I do know someone who has never had a cat but is completely obsessed with them. She'd probably take him, or at least find him a good home. You sure? I nodded. Positive. When Franklin saw me standing in the front of his locker, he rolled his eyes and put a scowl on. I handed him a note. You don't have to talk to me. This is for Diana. Tell her to be here today after school. You can come too if you want. You want to hang out with Diana? No, you'll see. Just see if you can get her there, in front of the deli. Franklin shrugged. Sure, whatever. After school, when Caroline's mom took her sisters to their swimming lessons, Caroline and I put the kitten in a box and brought it down to the sidewalk. I wrote Diana on the box. Bye, Tommy, Caroline whispered to the kitten. I'll miss you. Maybe you can go and visit. She seemed sad, so I slipped my elbow through hers as we walked upstairs. We knelt on her couch, watching out the window. There they are! It was Franklin who noticed the box, pointed to it. Diana seemed puzzled, but opened it. Then she looked surprised and excited and lifted Tommy out. Franklin was peering up and down the street, probably for me. He didn't look up, though, so he didn't see me. I giggled. For the first time in ages, I thought about Franklin and actually felt happy, like laughing. Even without me, Franklin was out there, being Franklin. We watched them walk away. Are you friends with her? Caroline asked. Diana? No, but Franklin is. Why would you give her a kitten if she isn't your friend? I don't know, I paused. It just seemed like the right thing to do. We both turned back into the room and sat for a minute, in our own thoughts. Hey, Caroline. Yeah? Will you come over to my house? Maybe tomorrow? I want to show you something. Caroline came home with me the next day. We went up to the room of questions, and she read the walls for a long time. Then we sat on the floor. What was in the other rooms? Well, I counted on my fingers. There was one room about Mom, a room about Dad, a room about Uncle Hugh, a room about me and Dad together, Dad's library, a room about believing in an empty room, a room about believing, an empty room, and this. Caroline thought for a few minutes. I'll be right back. She returned with several sheets of paper, a marker, and a roll of masking tape from the library desk. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em. What? I don't think we'll solve this. I think we're supposed to join in. That's what the message says to do. What do you want to ask? I don't know. Fine, I'll start. She knelt and wrote, Why did Elise get a room full of questions? She taped the paper to the wall. Your turn. She handed me the marker. I don't know what to write. Start with something easy. I thought, and still didn't know what to write. Caroline took back the marker. She wrote, Why do we have boogers? And taped it up. I laughed. Do you really want to know the answer? Franklin probably knew it. No, she laughed, but it's a good question. Oh, I have another, she wrote and didn't let me see. Then she hung the paper. What would you put in your pocket if people had pockets like kangaroos? Aren't those pouches? Caroline taped up a fourth paper. What's the difference between pockets and pouches? By this point, we were both giggling again. Caroline handed me the marker. Go on. I wrote, Why is the sky blue? Good one, Caroline said as I asked my question to the wall. Now things we actually want to know. She wrote, Why do I hate getting sand between my toes? I thought, then wrote, Why do beets taste so gross? Caroline laughed and then became serious. Okay, real ones now, about things that matter. I wrote, Why did I get an empty room? And where did all the keys come from? Then, will Franklin forgive me? Caroline looked at that, crossed it out and wrote, How can I show Franklin that I still want to be friends? She squeezed my hand for a second, then let go. I walked around the room, reading the old questions that I hadn't looked at yet. Then I came to this one. What will my Elise be? Would you watch Ava for an hour? Annie found me on the porch waving to Caroline as she left with her mom. I don't know how. Don't be silly. You play with her all the time. She's been fed and changed and just needs to be with someone. And just needs someone to be with her. I want to run to the store with Bessie, and we'll be in and out quicker without her. I wouldn't ask you if I didn't know it would be okay. And just in case, my cell phone number is on the kitchen counter. Okay, I said. She handed Ava to me. She'd grown since she'd come to live with us. Maybe Annie could see that in me too, and not just Ava. Maybe that was why Annie wouldn't have left me alone in the house with Ava 3 months ago, but it was okay now. Aunt Bessie and Annie left. Hi, Ava, I said, imitating Annie's gentle Ava voice. How about we go ride in the swing? I carefully pushed her legs through the openings in her swing, sat her down, buckled her in. Then I set the pace of the swing and stepped back. Ava was smiling, so I guess it was a good idea. Why are you here, Ava? Ava burbled. Why are you here in my house? Oh, Anyway, now I think it's good you're here. Good? She asked. Yes, good. That night, I collected all my messages from Dad. There were 7. Question, believe, choose to live, choose to love. Know what you came from, seek to learn. Understand those you love, treasure your life. I spread them out in a circle around me on my bedroom floor. They all seemed to be about deciding what was important in your life. But there had been 8 keys and only 7 messages. So what was that empty room for? I could only imagine. And then I realized that was the point. I knew what the 8th room was for. It was for me to decide. It could be whatever I needed it to be, whatever I wanted it to be. And the truth, I suddenly understood, was that so could I. And that's the end of the chapter. Be careful with that and enjoy, please and thank you. And now we're on to part 3. Woohoo!